Good evening, Lake Orion. Well, it's a cold, chilly day. I'm your host, and I am between Taorminas. Yes, indeed, it's between Taorminas here on ONTV. I'm your host, Anthony Taormina. I'm here with Sammy this week. Sam, how you doing?
Hi, buddy.
And for those wondering about where Ian is, forget it. All right, let's talk about let's talk about the World Series. Why are you down this week?
Because my sports empire took a big hit this week.
Please explain.
My hockey team got beat.
Who did the Stars lose to?
The Detroit Dead Wings. 4-2.
Boy.
Awful. Just awful.
Oh, boy.
Just awful. And you know who's let me have it? Bill Reese, Bob Bridges, Eric Jennings.
Can we explain who all three of those people are?
No, we cannot. No, we cannot.
Why?
Because they know who they are. They've been on this. They've been well known on this show before.
Well, we've had two of them come on the show before.
Yeah, and they're both evil. And
what?
Jim Manzo is also evil.
What? We've had three of them come on the show.
They're all evil. They got bad things against my sports empire.
Really?
Yes.
Oh, jeez.
And then of course, but some positives for me was Michigan State won.
Yes,
Michigan State beat Purdue. Purdue, of course, let's not mention they beat Ohio State by 2 touchdowns. And of course, Michigan State.
But didn't Purdue also lose to Eastern Michigan?
Yes, it did. Now, Michigan State's got a little bit of a quarterback controversy now. Want to talk about that later on in the segment. And I'd like to congratulate the Boston Red Sox on winning the World Series behind the 2014 Detroit Tigers.
Sounds about right.
Uh-huh.
You know, so if they had kept the core group together in 2018.
You know, that falls on Al Avila, because he's a loser. Because Al Avila doesn't know how to fix a baseball team. Because that's what Al Avila is. He needs to go right now. Al Avila, get out of town!
But Ron Gardenhire was certainly the right choice.
Yeah, he should have been the manager of that team. Ron Gardenhire should have been the manager of the Detroit Tigers then. Now he's the manager of the team. And it's unfortunate because I feel bad for him because Ron Gardenhire should have been the manager of the 2014 Detroit Tigers. He could have won a World Series.
Oh, my gosh.
Instead, we had a horrible manager like Brad Ausmus, who was complete failure.
You are aware that he's the new skipper of the Anaheim Angels?
I know he is. Horrible move by them.
So
terrible.
Why do you think it's a horrible move?
Because Brad Ausmus is a complete failure as manager of the Tigers. He was a complete failure. And going with it with the youth movement, garbage. Garbage.
So the Tigers are essentially,
They're garbage now. Garbage!
So that's why you've stuck to the Cleveland Indians?
Yup. Now, it's been a sad day for the city of Cleveland, too. Fired Teron Lou after they won a world championship with the Cavs 3 years ago. And then they just fired Hugh Jackson and Todd Haley.
Who are
the head coach and the offensive coordinator of the Cleveland Browns.
Shouldn't they have fired the defensive coordinator, too?
They should have fired everyone.
They should completely clean house.
They have to now. Have to.
You think they will?
Yes.
Okay, so, you know, it was a fairly... So, with the Red Sox and the Dodgers, it felt like a traditional, 1940s,
one that
1950s.
went 18 innings.
Yeah, I had one game that went 18 innings.
18 innings.
And it seemed like Boston dominated the World Series.
They did. I mean, they looked good. Except the Dodgers' only true win was the 18-inning game. But Boston just really dominated. They got pitching. The right pieces came. David Price pitched well. Chris Sale ended up being your de facto closer of closing out series. He closed out against the Yankees. Closed out this series.
What about the Astros?
And then the Astros, he became your de facto closer. So basically, I can see a future in closing for Chris Sale.
Interesting. So you think it would be a positive sign for Boston?
It'd be a positive sign for Boston. You got Craig Kimbrell, then you have Chris Sale there. Maybe, possible. Who knows?
So it seemed like Dave Dombrowski was willing to spend, just like he spent during the days in Detroit.
Well, let's not forget, you have a owner who is willing to spend. He also owns Liverpool SC as well, and I believe it's John Henry. Yep, he's the owner of the Red Sox. I mean, like, Dave Dombrowski knows how to build winners. He built a winner in Detroit. He's building a winner in Boston. I'm curious to see how he's doing with the minor league team down there in Boston. I mean, like, specifically, especially trading away a lot of assets. You know what I mean? Basically, how that's developed.
He's still getting rid of assets over in Boston?
Well, it all comes down to developing player personnel. We're going now into a game where, you can't afford to be big-time spenders. Whereas if you can develop your team through the draft, develop your team to get better in the long haul, I think it's going to work out in the future.
What about New York, the Yankees?
The Yankees are built for the future. I mean, Aaron Judge, really good player. They've got some pieces there. I mean, New York, I think, is going to be a team worth watching. They are finally building their farm system up there, and they've done a good job building that farm system over there in New York.
So you think the Tigers have no chance for a few years?
No chance. None. Cleveland's built for the present and the future. Chicago's built for the future. Detroit, they're not going anywhere. Minnesota, they're not going anywhere. So when I look at the AL Central now, it's Cleveland's all year long.
What about Chicago or Kansas City?
You omitted
Kansas City from that equation.
Kansas City, I would evacuate it from that equation. But Chicago, I think they're a team to watch next year is Chicago.
So,
AL West, I still think it's Oakland. Oakland just extended Billy Beane. Bob Melvin, their manager, and their GM, they extended the long-term deals today. So, AL West, I still think it's Oakland, then Texas, then Seattle, then Texas. Those are.
So you're giving
I should take back Houston. I take back Houston, then Oakland.
So you're giving
Houston,
Anaheim
Oakland.
no chance.
No chance. No.
Okay, so do you want to further explain the Stars' loss to the Wings?
It was awful. Just awful.
The Wings aren't very good.
They are terrible. They are a daycare center. That's how I call the Detroit Red Wings. They are a daycare center. And the Stars just played so bad, it wasn't even funny. I was left looking for words. What happened to this team? The Stars are a better team than Detroit. It clearly showed I mean, but the problem is the Stars, they can't win on the road, which has been a big problem for me. Been frustrating for me is that this team cannot win on the road, and they lose to a freaking daycare center. A daycare center!
All right. So any final thoughts on these two subjects?
So it is what it is. So we'll see what happens. Got to move on, focus on Montreal and Toronto.
We'll be back with Between Taorminas on ONTV.
Hey, it's ONTV here. Now, have you ever had the urge to create your own TV show, or you just wanted to see what goes behind the scenes of making a TV program? Well, ONTV has just the program for you. ONTV offers studio and field production classes that allow you to take control and create the programs the way you want them to be. We will introduce you to media literacy skills and the fundamentals of program production in order to acquire the basic training needs for ONTV equipment use. To get started, all you have to do is sign up for a free ONTV orientation where you will learn all about ONTV and all the opportunities available to our volunteers, as well as meet the ONTV staff and take a tour of our facility. After that, you can register for one of our production courses. Both the studio and field production courses are only $10 for Lake Orion residents and $25 for non-residents. For more information about ONTV's production classes, feel free to call us at 248-393-1060 or go to orionontv.org and click Register Now to sign up for classes. We hope to see you soon.
Taorminas here on ONTV. Sammy, how you doing?
Hanging in there, still vetting about the Dallas Stars.
You want to talk about another dumpster fire?
Yeah, sure. What is it?
The Detroit Lions.
Oh, my God.
Didn't they get humiliated by the Seattle Seahawks?
Do you want to know why the Detroit Lions are a dumpster fire, everybody? It's pretty simple. They can't stop the run. And they let Russell Wilson, who was normally a running quarterback, throw for 3 touchdowns. That's garbage. That is just garbage. And the Lions secondary, I've said this a long time ago, they are small. And they can't cover anybody. And that's why I'm explaining to you why the Lions are struggling. And Matthew Stafford cannot, he played terrible. I mean, there's no ifs, ands, or buts about it. He played terrible.
Well, can I play devil's advocate? Because the Lions secondary has been the best part of the defense for the majority of the season. But just this week, they did not prove, against Seattle, they didn't prove it. You know, again, give Seattle a lot of credit.
Well, Seattle's a team where they're a run-first team. I mean, all the Lions had to do was shut down the run. They couldn't do that. You let their running back, I believe it's Chantel Carson, I believe. He let Carson go nuts on him. And then he let Russell Wilson play the zone read on you. Basically, your defensive ends have to contain. They did not contain in that game. So explain to me that reality. The Lions' defense, especially the ends, are terrible. And their linebackers can't even cover. Jared Davis can't even cover to save his life.
So this is the second humiliating game at Ford Field for the Lions.
Yes, the Jets game was, if you think the Jets game was humiliating, this is worse. They are taking a wrong turn. Everybody says, okay, the Lions are going to turn the corner. You know what? Lions fans know this for years. You don't ever get sucked in. And we've been sucked in for nearly 50 years. 50 years of seeing this garbage. That is the Lions for you. They'll break your heart. They'll stab your heart. Why can't we do this? That's why, if you go to another team, I feel if you're a Lions fan, you need to go to another team. Then you don't have to deal with this.
Wow. Talk about frustration.
This has been going on for 50 years.
So you've been rooting for, didn't you go to another team, root for the Minnesota Vikings?
That I did. Except they lost the Saints. That I did. Now, the Lions play the Vikings this week. And the Vikings will win over the Lions.
It is in Minnesota or at Ford Field?
It is at Minnesota.
Ooh, that's a tough game.
It is in Minnesota. Trade deadlines this week.
Mm-hmm.
There have been rumors about Golden Tate possibly being traded. I mean...
What teams have expressed interest in Golden Tate?
They haven't explained it to me. But I know there's been teams that are interested in Golden Tate. He's in a contract year.
Mm-hmm.
So, if you're going to trade Tate, try to get extra draft picks. Look what Chicago did with Khalil Mack. Oakland ended up getting 2 firsts for him. The Dallas Cowboys just recently got Amari Cooper. They had to give up a first round to go get him.
Mm-hmm. They fired their offensive line coach.
Dallas did?
Yes.
Really?
They fired their offensive line coach.
Well, that's news to me. But the future, Oakland's trying to build something under John Gruden. But I don't understand is, if Oakland can build something and turn around that team real quick, what are we as Lions fans?
You're not a Lions fan.
No. I'm just saying to everybody out there.
Oh, you're going generality.
I'm going the generality. Because look at the Chicago Bears, how they developed their team. They have gotten better through the draft. The draft always helps you. Except the Lions have management skills who do not help this team and puts us suffering Lions fans through
You're
basically like the chop sliver. They don't care about the fans. They don't. Lions management, they don't care. All they want is your money. That's all they want.
That's exactly how I feel about Detroit Red Wings fans.
That's all they want is money.
That's how I feel about Red Wing fans. That's how I feel about Red Wing management. All they do is they take your money and give you a mediocre game.
You say the same thing for the Pistons.
Yeah,
You can say the same thing for the Pistons.
But the Pistons have actually, with the exception going against the Celtics, but Boston's one of the best teams in the East. But you look at the Pistons, they've actually been playing pretty decent lately. They beat Philadelphia. They beat Cleveland.
Philadelphia did not have Ben Simmons in that game.
Right.
I mean, the jury's still on this team. Because, they need Blake Griffin to show up every night. Reggie Jackson's a dumpster fire. Andre Drummond, he can be a rebounding machine when he wants to. I mean, really doesn't have a lot of offensive skills. I mean...
Wait, but didn't the Pistons have one great player who used to be that way?
Ben Wallace. Ben Wallace
was a defensive genius.
Ben Wallace and Andre Drummond are not the same player. Ben Wallace was a heck of a defender. He could block shots. Andre Drummond can't block shots the same as Skin. So I'm telling you...
Are you sure about that?
The Pistons had a starting five back in, I believe, 2003, 2004 season.
2005.
2005, through those years.
Chauncey Billups, Rip Hamilton, Tayshaun Prince, Rasheed Wallace, and Ben Wallace.
Yes, that was a machine. And here, you don't really have that because I think the Pistons have to clean house. They're going to have...
Again?
Well, because I don't think this whole moving to Detroit thing is working out well for them. And also because you still see empty seats. If Tom Gore thought that going downtown would be a moneymaker and to bring out fans and all that, it's doing the opposite, man. It's doing the opposite because they can't even fill up Little Caesars Arena, and you see plenty of empty seats over there. I don't even know why they're putting new black seats in there when you just put red seats in that place. That's stupid. That's stupid management decision by them. Terrible.
Any final thoughts
Pistons,
on both the Lions and the Pistons?
The Lions, they better get their act together. The Pistons, there's a whole league of wolves there. Good Lord.
We'll be right back with Between Taorminas on ON TV. Hello, Oakland County. This is Sammy Taormina talking OA Now. In it, we'll talk various stories ranging from the state to Oakland County teams affecting the OAA. Catch us here on OA Now. Hello, Lake Orion. It's Anthony Taormina, co-host of Between Taorminas. I want to let you know of a new show called History Now. In it, we're going to talk about global, national, and political events that occur in our lifetime. We're going to also have guests and also have co-hosts as well, and also plenty of surprises. Catch us on History Now here on ON TV. Welcome back to Between Taorminas here on ON TV. I'm your host, Anthony Taormina. And Sammy, you have some special news you want to announce to our viewers.
We are going to have a special BT next week. It'll be in the podcast room. So, of course, BT next week. Next week's show will be held in the podcast room.
First ever podcast of Between Taorminas.
Between Taorminas, yes.
That'll be fun.
It will be.
That'll be exciting. Let's talk about the. There's a news story that's come out that about the Palace of Auburn Hills. Oakland University is interested in looking at acquiring the Palace. Now, I don't know if those rumors are true, but I mean, if Oakland was to buy the Palace, what's your take on that?
It's a big get because if Oakland were to buy the Palace, you can get the Palace practice facility You can get the arena itself. It will bring people in the seats in the games. There's some pros and cons to this. The cons would be management costs of the Palace, but I think for Oakland, to get at a venue like the Palace, I think it'll put hockey, it'll put Division I hockey into the Palace. It'll also put concert venues, very similar. They own the Meadowbrook Theater as well. Mm-hmm. But most importantly for me, I think it makes a lot of sense if they get their own basketball arena in the Palace, because I know the old arena. I know it's small. It's a nice building, but it's small though. When you look at putting them in the Palace, you know what I mean, a big time venue. I think it'd be a great move and also, by the way, you can use the Palace for graduation ceremonies and all that. I think if Oakland were to buy the Palace, I think it'd be
you could also have MHSA events there. You could have you could have the MHSA if they wanted to rent the place from the
because
rent the Palace, they have to pay Oakland, and instead of having to pay
it
Tom
makes
Ward.
A lot of sense. I mean, it would make a lot of sense if the MHSA can use the Palace again.
They could easily bring back wrestling.
Bring back wrestling, the state final there. I think this is a perfect move if Oakland were to buy the Palace. I think it makes a lot of sense.
You could even have a couple classes in there too.
Absolutely.
You could use, the positive. So your view is the positives outweigh the negatives.
The positives outweigh the negatives. I think that it would be a great move for the university if they were to buy the Palace. I think it would be.
You could host soccer.
You can host soccer there too. You can host a different variety of events. You know what I mean? It definitely helps athletics a lot, and it definitely helps future events. Like you can hold
several events there.
You
can even host robotic competitions. You can host other things there. The positives outweigh the negatives.
Yeah.
But there is cons, as you said.
Yeah. Operating costs.
Obviously, it's not on campus. It's like, you want to have that campus feeling that the Palace is not on campus. But
it would make the most sense, to be honest with you. It really would. If
both sides are truly committed to it.
Yeah, I think, and a lot of people, if this comes down, I think it's a great move because not only that, but you can also possibly host the Horizon League men's and women's basketball tournament at the Palace of Auburn Hills. I think that would be
a big venue.
It's a big venue, you know what I mean? But I think if Oakland decides to buy the Palace, I think the positives outweigh the negatives. You're right there. I agree with you.
And you notice with the Horizon League tournament this year, they're having the first round on campus sites. They're only having the semifinals and the finals at Little Caesars Arena. They're not having the entire tournament over there.
That's terrible.
So
that's a bad decision.
But if you look at it, that's the attendance for that event has been down the last several years.
It's been down, but I think it makes a lot of sense if Oakland were to buy a Palace. You know what? Everything changes because then the Palace will be in use again.
I think it's very important that the Palace be in use again. The question will be, can both sides come to a mutual agreement?
I think they will.
But then what happens? Does tuition go up at Oakland again? No. Does Oakland's doing a lot of these projects? So it's a fair question to ask.
It's a good question to ask. It really is.
It would be nice if Oakland bought the Palace.
It would be nice.
It puts the Palace to good use again. So
would be nice.
So we'll have to see. Hopefully it happens. Who knows?
Hopefully.
Well, let's talk about high school football, especially with Lake Orion. Lake Orion was eliminated on Friday by Clarkston. But there was a lot of pundits that said Lake Orion was not going to make the playoffs, especially after they went 0-2. So then they got in at 5-4, and they got for that's quite an accomplishment. Can we? Let's recap.
You know what it is. The Clarkson game. I said one controversial call cost Lake Orion that game.
Let's talk positives, not negative.
Yeah, but that'll be on the podcast. But anyway, on the Dragons, had a nice year. I still think there's still a lot of room to grow for this team. They got some questions they've got to address. I would like for them to, maybe open it up a little bit more, especially develop the wide receiving core for them. But overall, they've got some pieces. They've got some pieces.
They had some nice road wins too.
Oh yeah, this team was much better on the road. They went to Adams. They went into Monroe, winning those two big games. Went to Southfield, won that big game there. But there's a lot of room to grow for this team next year. A lot of room.
Obviously, with competing in the OAA Red, that's one of the toughest divisions in the state.
I think it's the toughest.
They had 5 teams, or 5 of the 7 teams qualified for the state playoffs. You could have easily had 6.
You could have easily had 6, but it is what it is. 5.
So does that prove that the OAA Red as a whole for football might be one of the toughest? Because everybody's beating each other up.
It is the toughest conference. I mean, a lot of people say, well, the Catholic League Central is one of the toughest in the entire state as well. I mean, but I think the OAA Red is perhaps the toughest conference. And the reason why it is you got a lot of quality teams there. When you look at West Bloomfield, Southfield, you got Adams, you got Oxford, you got Clarkston, you got Lake Orion, and of course you have Bloomfield Hills. I mean, that's not an easy league to go through. I mean,
and we're not talking Oak Park or Harrison or Groves. They're in the white.
Or Groves, they're in the white.
And Ferndale.
Or Avondale, Farmington, Ferndale being in the blue, or Seahome being in the blue. I mean, the Red is by far the toughest conference in the state of Michigan. Now, people are going to say, well, the Catholic League Central is the toughest in the state of Michigan, and the fact that Orchard Lake St. Mary's had West Bloomfield almost beat. But I think there's going to be a lot to prove this week, especially in that the OA taking on the Catholic League Central. I think it's a big week. But on Lake Orion's season, I don't
bouncing back from 0-2.
Bounce back from 0-2 is great, but I would still like to see this team make the next step, and I think that next step is probably winning 6 or 7 games next year, and you still got a very tough schedule when you look at having to play at Lapeer, having to go play at having to go play at Oxford, at Clarkston. That's not going to be easy games.
You got Monroe coming here. You got Adams coming here. West Bloomfield and South. I mean, it's like tough game after tough game, tough game, tough game. I mean, it's just so vicious.
It's vicious.
I mean, you had your fair share of cupcake teams, but then you have your fair share of it's tough game, tough game, tough game, tough game. You know what I'm saying? For this group to overcome that this year,
and it's going to get them better.
Even last year and 2 years ago.
It's going to get them better because a lot of that team was junior heavy when you look at Lake Orion. I think at the end of the day here, when you look at it here, that team, I think this year is going to translate to next year because they've been battle tested. They've had an extra week of practices, which was great for this program going forward. Mm-hmm. And I think it bodes well for the future of Lake Orion football.
I hope so.
They got to address some things, though.
They do got to address some things,
especially the wide receivers have got to be a question mark for me next year. And especially, maybe the defensive mindset might have to change a little bit because they gave up way too many yards, and they got to address that. And tackling, they got to address that too.
So we'll have to see what happens going further. So, Okay, so you got any final thoughts?
Well, we'll see. I'm looking forward to doing BT in the podcast room next week, so I'm looking forward to that.
We covered a lot of topics.
A lot of, baseball,
football, hockey. I mean, we covered a lot of topics.
I hope Oakland buys the Palace. I really do.
Wouldn't that be something?
It would be something.
That'd be interesting. All right, that will do it for this episode of Between Taorminas. Have a great night and see you soon, Lake Orion. Take care.